Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Wise Tech for Wise Money, the show where we explore the tools and strategies that help build lasting wealth and impact. Today's episode, Impact Investing, Family Offices and Clearing the Entrepreneur's Roadblocks with Gregory Hill. I'm your host, Gary Wayne, founder of A1 Solutions. I've spent over 35 years of financial services, from trading and fund management to M&A and operations. Today my focus is on helping financial operators scale with precision and growth systems, AI-powered client acquisition and operational strategy. Today our guest is Gregory Hill, who is the founder of GCH Partners, a private globally directed investment holdings company that works with family offices, asset managers, foundations and philanthropic organisations. Gregory is also an author who's just published a book called Samsara and Its Impact on the Entrepreneur's Dreams, exploring how entrepreneurs can clear the internal roadblocks that prevent them from achieving their goals. Greg, welcome. It's good to have you on the show.
Thank you, Gary. It's great to be here. What a pleasure.
I love the view out your back window. It looks, even though it's raining, it looks so much better than England.
Thank you.
Go on.
I was just saying, it's raining, but even the farm looks good when it's raining.
Yeah, not here. It's grey, sadly. But let's start with your journey. You're based in Tewksbury, New Jersey. How did you get into the world of finance and investment?
It's a great question. I studied economics. In fact, I studied economics, English composition, and studio of fine arts when I was at university and college. True liberal arts training. And I had a parent my father was in academia, and then he moved into the corporate world. My mother was also an academic, and then eventually moved into the telecoms world. And the one thing I knew is that I did not want to become a corporate or a telecoms guy. I wanted to do something else. When I got to my school, I went to Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut. I found this subject called economics, which is the study of scarcity, and in particular how financial resources and global resources are divided amongst competitors around the world and how they end up getting there. And capital and finance is a big part of that. And it just made sense to me. I didn't even have to study, it just made sense. And I said, this is what I want to do. Learned about the world of finance and banking. I said, okay, I'm going to go pursue this route. Short and sweet.
What's your connection to London and the European markets? You said when we first met that you come to London 3 or 4 times a year. I think you even mentioned Leicester and Leeds. Do you have a business there or network across the UK?
Well, so 2 things I do is I work with family offices, 1, and 2, we allocate capital into funds. And so the European community is always looking for capital from America. Also leveraging idea and the brain trust, especially technology from Silicon Valley and the financial awareness from New York City. And I'm able to form a lot of relationships that way and have done so really over 20 years. And so the relationships I have in Leeds are really more around health technology, healthcare health technology. The relationships in Leicester is more around how financials work to support manufacturing. There's an enormous amount of warehouses from Amazon that are out there in the distribution sector in the Midlands there, midfields. And then London is a thriving trading center with all types of ideas and needs for capital, and real estate is a underlying source to all of that, whether it's Leeds, Leicester, or London.
You've clearly seen a lot from the evolution of markets to political changes. You mentioned when we last spoke about Bloomberg's impact on New York, Rudy Giuliani before him. How have these systemic changes influenced your approach to investing and advising?
Well, it's interesting. Giuliani came in at a time where the city was really suffering, and he really brought a very what I call common sense approach. There are a lot of rules and regulations. I'll give you one quick example. The mayor's office is on 88th Street, East 88th Street on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. And lo and behold, somebody's sick. And the way the hospital healthcare systems work is if you are in certain zones, you have to go to a certain hospital. So it turns out a guy's sick, having a heart attack, and the ambulance, is structured because they're at this to go all the way downtown, which is going to take a long time, traffic. And there's a hospital right there at the Upper East Side. And they're arguing, the family's arguing with the ambulance driver, and he's saying, well, I've got my rules, I've got to go here. Giuliani came out and said, go to the closer one. Ultimately it saved his life. So it's very practical. That was the approach that Giuliani took. It's funny, Mayor Giuliani, but that led to when Mayor Bloomberg came in, he came in with a financial acumen, but really he had a management governance style. He knew how to manage moving parts. And in truth, when he came in, Mayor Bloomberg inherited about a $43 billion deficit that he needed to fix. And people were coming in with all their personal agendas. And he held a meeting on the $43 billion deficit that they needed to fix. People were griping about this, human resources, backgrounds, every possible thing you can imagine. He just says, come on, everybody. We have a $43 billion deficit. This is the focus, right? And what he did was he said, we're not enforcing what we already have. People are not paying their parking tickets. And the next thing you know, there was a boot on every car on every block. People paid their parking tickets, and amazingly enough, that was the start of a 12-year run where Mayor Bloomberg put in more than $650 million of his own money into the city. And so, number one, he started out by fixing the financial systems that was a $43 billion deficit, but by the time he left, he poured, now in New York City terms, to put $650 million of disposable income means he had to put $1.3 billion in revenue to do that. And by the time that he left, he had done this analysis that the relationships between parks, whether it's a cement park, a green grass park, and the population demographic of a city, the more parks there are, the more calm there is. And so he instituted these parks, he got rid of roads, blocked things off, and literally the city was thriving. No matter what you wanted to say about him politically, he was an independent, he was a Republican, he was a Democrat, he was all three. He transformed the city. He really did. And so I saw, you can put capital to work, but when you look at the human aspect, people, parks, people don't think about that. But he did. He did an analysis, spent an enormous amount of money. It made a difference. People are peaceful, they're calmer, they're happier, they work longer, they feel safer. Economic activity increases. I saw that firsthand.
Has that been sustainable? I mean, we spoke, I think, that New York really had overtaken the London markets. We agreed that the depth and professionalism in New York was way ahead of Europe. Do you think that's all to do with that legacy and how it's continued to grow?
When people are in office, everybody likes to complain, even with Mayor Bloomberg's successes. But today, I would say, especially the people who were naysayers for Mayor Bloomberg, wished he had the keys to the city and was still running the city today. When you have a lot of turnover and you have a lot of uncertainty, people don't focus on what's in front of them. They don't focus on the results they need. They get caught up and distracted on the emotion, and they lose time. And so I would say right now, the city is going through a massive transformation of uncertainty. We just had an election, and it's really not about who is in office versus what is their capacity to execute and perform. Moving from an ownership to a stewardship mentality is key. The ability to manage people and be authentic is going to be what defines this current mayor's legacy, frankly.
How about the politics in the US generally? I mean, do you think there's a positive attitude across the country as a whole since Trump's got in?
I would say that as a whole, even people begrudgingly are positive because their 401k plans are way up. Their stock portfolios are way up. Of course, a lot of that's institutional in a certain mindset, but the balance really is the economic and jobs activity and the income activity. With what's happening now is the uncertainty that's coming in with AI, and we still have a legacy of increased pricing on food in particular from the pandemic. The excuse that was given during the pandemic and really the next few years after that was there's a supply chain issue. That's been several years, so the prices should have come down, but you know how it is. The prices go up, they never come back down. And
Well, we're seeing that in the UK anyway.
That's where we're at.
I think it's a global problem, isn't it?
It is, which is one of the reasons why I wrote my book, which is called Samsara and Its Impact on the Entrepreneur's Dreams. And Samsara, as you know, as I shared with you, is a 2,000-year-old Sanskrit word that means suffering. Actually, cycles of suffering when one's attached to the material world. And not just Ferraris, watches, and success, but attached to outcome, attached to results, financial results, attached to relationships. And the thing is, when the folks, the people seeking jobs, the everyday citizen doesn't get what they want, when they want it, how they want it, they suffer on the inside, and they carry that out into the world everywhere they go, because the one common denominator in every experience we're having, Gary, you and me and the rest of the world, is us. We are in every experience that we have every day. And so right now is an incredible time for people to come together in the sense that we're all connected, whether we want to be or not, whether we realize it, we are. How we work together. It's not about creating a legacy for our children or our grandchildren. It's about the legacy that we wake up to every morning now, Gary. We're waking up, what's going on, right? What are we facing right now? And that's the urgency that people are feeling, the uncertainty of AI. Am I gonna have a job? Am I not? How can I provide for myself and my family? That's what's going on right now. So there's a sense of urgency right now in terms of how do you create wealth? How do you move the roadblocks? And that's what we're going to be talking more about today. And thank you again.
So tell me about GCH Partners. Exactly what it does. It's a globally directly investment holdings company. What does that mean in practice?
So in practice, what it really are is advisor consulting boutique, and we work with founders and owners specifically on how to grow their business. Everything we do is about growth. Whether you're a solopreneur, a one-person entrepreneur startup, high net worth individual, whether you're a team, whether you're an international family, whether you're a corporate Fortune 500, anything where you're focused on growth, things get in the way. And people initially look to markets and capital and technology about accessing that to grow. But it's more than that. It's the market, it's the capital, it's the technology, but it's about how you leverage the capital to fuel those growth opportunities. And so what we do is we use the experience of decades of financial acumen, technology acumen, operational acumen, and we come as a consultant and we work with the founders and help them clear what's in the way practically and themselves as their own personalities, because their personalities and their governing style, which I call the self-cherishing ego, is what gets in the way of their ability to inspire and lead their teams, their people, their talent, their relationships with their clients and customers, their suppliers, their capital relationships, banking, service provider relations, lawyers, consultants, attorneys, accountants. All of that matters in terms of how you address the growth opportunities in front of you. It's not just about, oh, there's a market. It's about, well, how do we get to it? What's our relationships there? How do we access it? What are the structures we need? How do we fuel that? Who do we know? And in each situation, in that step to growth, we are part of every conversation along the way, and we ourselves get in the way or we attract. We either repel the very resources, ideas, and people we need, or we attract, like a magnet, the very same ideas, people, and resources to grow our businesses. And that's what people want. How do I grow my business? How do I do that? So maybe it'd be helpful to give you an example for your listening audience, Gary.
Yeah, please.
So there was a company that needed to raise capital. It was a hardware software technology business with networking, data networking, and it had just the beginnings of AI. It was touching just the beginnings of what we call AI today. They needed capital to grow their business. They were a US domestic player. They wanted to expand internationally into Europe and then to Asia. Except they were bleeding. They had incredible intellectual property, great IP, and they had put that IP into hardware and software technology and data networking, but they're bleeding. And I had met them in London. I'm going to jump to the end. So they asked me to help them raise money, help them position themselves for growth. I brought institutional capital to the table, and then they didn't take the money. So why would that happen, right? You ask for money, I bring you money, and then you don't take it. It's self-cherishing ego. How is that? 2 years before I met them, they had generated $600,000 in product revenue, but lost $600,000. They're figuring out their business. And then a year before I met them, they generated over $880,000 of product revenue, but also lost that because they're hiring people, they're deploying, they're marketing, they're figuring it out. Now I met them in Europe, I was in London and a few places, and they had booked over $1.4 million of revenue. They hadn't collected it, but they booked it. The trend would be make 600, lose 600. Make 800, lose 800,000. Make $1 million, lose $1 million. But my team and I worked with them for the better part of a year, and they 11x their business 11 times and became profitable. Now they're printing money. They're printing money. Now they don't want the money.
Amazing.
They don't want the money now because they said to me, Gregory, you told me that the first money's in that I have to share my company with is the most dilutive, most expensive. And I said, that's right. But it's the most important.
Fantastic result, 11 times.
So to jump to the end of the story, though, I said, talk to your board, talk to your family. Let's meet in New York face to face and go over the plan. By the time he came to New York, he was armored up, talked to his board. He didn't want the money, didn't want to dilute. To timestamp this conversation, it was February 18th of 2020. The pandemic hit, the world cracked in half, and boy, the founders wished they took the capital. And so you can blame the pandemic, an external event, as the reason that your company ran into trouble and couldn't grow. But in fact, it was the greed and the desire to keep as much as they wanted, that kept him and blocked him from taking in the capital that he could have used when the rainy days hit, right? Which is why I have a term in my book called the sunshine banker. The bankers are all there when the sun is out, taking you to games and golf, but when the rain is raining like it is today, there's no banker to be found. No one picks
run away. You said you work with family offices, asset managers,
Yes.
foundations, philanthropic organisations.
Yes.
Obviously, they're very different types of clients.
Yes,
How
they
does your approach differ depending on which type of client you're working with?
Well, obviously, the for-profits want to make money, and the not-for-profits want to attract money to employ and create their heartfelt ideas. Those are two different mindsets, right? But in fact, there's self-cherishing ego in both, right? It's still there. It still gets in the way. And so, in fact, the real dynamic is when you see the motivations of how people are driving themselves and their teams around them, it's always the same. Clearing what's in the way is about attached to an outcome, attached to a result, attached to what they identify with, attached to the relationship they think they need. And again, when they don't get what they want, they carry it around with them all the way, and they emit this negative charge underneath a smile and a nice suit, and they don't understand why they're repelling opportunities versus attracting them. So it's raining today here. There's a story of two monks. It's short and sweet. It's been raining, and there's a senior monk and a junior monk that used to go on walks. Finally, the sun comes out, and they said, let's go back out. We haven't been out for 10 days now. They come across a small stream, and there's a lady there with a bundle of sticks trying to get across the now raging river, and she can't. It's too severe, The current's too strong. The senior monk, without hesitation, walks down there, scoops her up in his arms, crosses the river, puts her down on the other side. She smiles a thank you. All the way, the junior monk is watching and observing this entire event. Several hours and several miles later, the junior monk builds up the courage and finally says, "You know, it's not in our custom, in our way, to have contact with a woman. How could you pick her up and carry her in your arms like that?" And the senior monk looks at the junior monk and said, "I put her down a couple of hours ago and a couple of miles ago. Are you still carrying her? In your mind, your heart, and your being?" And that's how leadership is. Founders are, entrepreneurs are, money market traders are, teachers, everyone. We have a bad experience and we carry it everywhere we go.
It's true. It's true. We touched on sustainability and the challenge in Europe earlier. How do you balance impact and sustainability goals with financial returns?
That's a great question, and thanks for asking. It really comes down to people love the idea of sustainability and impact, or whatever the modern day term may be, because it's always changing. It was called venture philanthropy 20 years ago, by the way. The dynamic today is people have a great heart. They want people to do well, especially if they're in a case where they're bringing in fair trade, fair wages, fair labor. But they'll only buy that $10 glass once when the competitor is selling that same glass for $5. They'll buy it once at the party. The next 50 times they're going to buy the $5 glass. So what the sustainable or impact investing business needs to figure out is how can they use technology, AI, better stewards of leadership to compete and make a $5 glass with sustainable resources, with fair wages. And if they can't, they're not going to make it. It's simple as that. And you should be able to actually employ, introduce, and integrate technology, AI, smart talent to help you execute at a level that's competitive. That's how it is. So that's what I focus on. How to focus on growth, clear what's in the way by actually helping people understand, let's not get attached to what you think is right. Let's bring in the ideas. Let's talk about it. Let's focus on the growth opportunity that's in front of us and put all the judgments, all the blame on another table and focus on how we get this result we want right now together. We can yell at each other afterwards, but right now, let's get together on this.
So with that in mind, what does success look like when you work with a client in general for you?
That's a great question. It's an important one. I think success is different for different folks. I think people are always thinking they want financial freedom, Gary. Everybody says, I want financial freedom. I want the time to do what I want. But what people really want is they want peace. They want to be happy. And so whether you have $1 million or $100, the real dynamic is who are you being when the negative event, the difficulty arises, the challenge is in front of you. Who are you being? Are you being positive or negative? Whether you have $100 or $1 million in your bank account or more, you still have that emotional roller coaster. And so my book, what I share with leaders and founders and entrepreneurs and C-suites and more, is about how to understand that when the challenge arises, Gary, can you take a breath? Can you reflect in that moment? Because in that breath and the reflection in that moment becomes the meditation of what I'm about to say, what I'm about to do, how I'm about to act. Is it going to push people further away or attract them to me? Right? Repel or magnet. That's your choice. And when you step into the positive and attract those very people, ideas, and possibilities, and you string that through one breath and one reflection, it's amazing things happen. And when you do that once a day for 2 days, and you string 5 days, a week, a month together, that becomes your personal practice. That becomes your personal practice. And you string together for a year, your world changes. But the world didn't change. You and your approach, how you inspire people, connect and impact people has changed. And how they respond back to you is much more powerful, positive. and amazing things happen. That's how I look at success, not as financial freedom, but getting to a place where you can understand to bring peace and happiness in every day, because how you do one thing is how you do everything.
So how do we do that? How do we
So
get that frame of mind?
the way we do that is, and it's going to sound funny, but we're going to do it right now. We're going to take 3 breaths together, Gary. Take 3
Right.
breaths with me, okay? I want to take your right hand first and just put it over your stomach.
Right. Okay.
Take your left hand and put it over your right hand. Okay? We're just going to take 3 breaths. I'm going to lead you. I'm going to do it with you. We're going to breathe in. We're going to hold for a second and then let go. You ready?
Yep.
Deep breath in. Hold. And let go. We're going to take another breath. Deep breath in. Hold. And let go. Final breath. Deep breath in. We're going to hold a little bit longer. Deep breath in. Hold. And let go. How do you feel?
Yeah, relaxed.
A little bit better. So here's the
Yeah.
thing. When you have a challenge, before having a knee-jerk response as a CEO, a founder, an entrepreneur, an employee, a student, you take a breath, you hold it, and you let it go. 3 is better, but even 1. And while you take that breath and you hold, before you speak, you simply ask yourself, reflect, is what I'm about to say, do, going to take me closer to or farther from the person and place I want to be? That's the meditation. That's the reflection. When you do that, you begin to attract all those same ideas, possibilities, and opportunities into your orbit, into your energy. And what happens, Gary, is all of a sudden people say, I don't know what it is about that Gary, but I want to be around him all the time. They don't even know why. Because you're no longer emitting that negative charge. You're not carrying around all that baggage and some sorrow or suffering everywhere you go. And people like to be around happy people. People like to be around people who are calm. People like to be around people who they feel are going to get a result and get things done. Not the person who's distracted, always on their phone, looking in 10 different directions. That's uncomfortable. That's frenetic. People want to be around somebody who's positive, who's happy, who's focused. They don't even know why, they just do. You're calm, you've got resilience, you've got strength, you've seen a lot. When you apply that calmness, Gary, you see people just want to hang around you a little longer. They want to stay around you at the lunch, the dinner, the party a little longer. An extra 10 minutes, an extra half an hour, an extra hour. And in that 10 minutes, 30 minutes, hour, for your listening audience, I will share with you, that's when the miracles happen. That's when the dreams get realized, because they share with you in that comfort, in that space, some idea, some moment about themselves, some experience that you said, I can help you there. And the business begins. The growth begins.
So has this helped you in your life a lot, Gregory?
It has. It has. When I give a knee-jerk response because I think I've got the smart answer or I'm emotionally charged, look, I'm working at this too. I've been on the floor. I had to pick myself up off the ground and get back up again. When I do a knee-jerk emotional response, how many times have we been in a situation where we're texting them, I was in a bad mood. Oh, I didn't have breakfast. We give some excuse because it's out there. But when we take that breath and reflect, and it becomes a practice. You don't just get good at it once. You have to do it every day. And the beautiful thing about what I just shared with you, you can do it anywhere. In your car, in your bathroom, in your bedroom, at lunch, on your walk, with your dog, your family. And when you take those 3 breaths in particular, you take the 1 breath and you just have a reflection, it becomes your personal practice. And it changes you and separates you from the rest. Again, I promise you, everyone listening, people don't even know why they want to be around you. They just do.
Very interesting. I must read your book.
Yes. Yes, you should.
Getting back to finance,
Yes.
there's a lot of talk about impact investing.
Yes, there
It's
is.
become quite a buzzword, but there's a lot of confusion about what it actually means. Can you define it?
Well, it's interesting. I was actually taking public transportation. I was on a bus in Manhattan, and the lady next to me heard me talking about impact investing to somebody else, a colleague next to me. And she says, "What's impact investing? That sounds like impact like a car crash." Interesting observation, right? So, impact investing and sustainability, we have a lot of different words. It really gets down to what people are calling consciousness or investing with a heart. I think people get lost in that because with a heart, it may take you 5 years to build a school, but if it should have only taken you 2 years, that's 3 years of extra capital and time you needed with a heart. So I think that being present, which is very powerful, being present on what you are working on is what allows you to make the biggest impact. Being sustainable, in my world, I believe, is about relevance. There's financial sustainability and then there's environmental sustainability. You have to be financially relevant. You have to be financially sustainable to exist. Otherwise, if you're not relevant, you're not sustainable. If you're not sustainable, you're not relevant. It goes hand in glove. And I think people get lost in the terminology. Everybody has a different experience of what impact and sustainability means. I think the most important thing is it's about being present to the opportunity of what's in front of you, not being distracted with the phone or 10 other things, but being present to what's in front of you allows you to make the biggest impact, to attract the capital into the structure that makes most sense for the opportunity in front of you. That's what I feel impact investing is. The ability to be present and come up with a result and a solution in real time.
So how do you advise clients about the difference or trade-off between impact and returns?
Well, the impact and returns always comes up. It's a great question. You want to make a return. I mean, we have to create a return. And it's a balance between what we are doing right now in terms of making a short return, net of fees, versus what is the long-term impact, what's the long-term impact to the world around us. So when you're investing in water, for example, let's pick a big topic. When you're investing in water infrastructure, meters to pipes to desalination, if we don't have water ourselves as humans in 3 days, for most, we're going to expire. That's how it is. So, but water doesn't have a price that's unique, that's consistent around the world, like oil or gold. Water is different in different regions of the world, depending on the politics, the ownership, the local jurisdictions. And so what ends up happening is people think that water is a human right, which it is. I'm using this because this is all about sustainability versus the long-term impact of if you don't invest in water and infrastructure, it's not going to be around for everybody. So you have to balance the immediacy of the returns with a long-term benefit for everyone beyond yourselves. And so it gets to the point of how much do I have to create a return for my immediate investors, my LPs, my limited partners, my business, my teams, versus what I'm going to leave for the next generation to come. It is a daily balance of being present to that duality. What's today? What's my return today? What's going to be there tomorrow? That's the exercise. That's the reflection. At the end of the day, we're doing that. That is our job, every one of us, every day. That's what we're looking for.
Sure. So what's the biggest misconception that people have about sustainability versus impact investing?
I think people conflate or confuse sustainability and impact investing with having a real good heart, or, being a nice person. If I don't do this, I'm not a nice person. If I don't give this in a charitable way, right? let's not make the mistake between morality and frugality. I think not-for-profits in particular need to have the ability to hire very talented people and pay a lot for them. People who have experience, people who have understandings of the industry to bring into the not-for-profit arena. And when you do that, you immediately get flack. Why is this person making 6 figures or 7 figures? I thought the not-for-profits are supposed to be for free and volunteer. Well, I write about this in my book too, which is there's a statement, when you pay peanuts, you get monkeys, right?
So yeah, I remember that.
So the thing is that if you want talent, if you don't pay, people don't pay attention, right? And so you want to balance, hey, we want to build a school, but we can do it in 2 years versus 5. If we do it in 2 years, it'll cost 2 million. If we do it in 5, it's going to cost 5+ million. What's our budget? Being present to the resources we have in front of us and understanding we want to have a heart, we want to be nice and bring that good energy while we're doing it. But at the same time, we don't want to just be patient and delay what's in front of us because we think we're being nice. And people conflate impact and sustainability with being nice and having a heart with the practical economics of, well, how nice is it when the school is only half finished and there's no benefit for our ultimate constituents, our customers and the students and the children? That's what people don't pay attention to. They get caught up in the emotion, they get attached to the outcome that they think they want. And again, we're back to self-cherishing ego and carrying around that emotional charge, negatively emitting out into the world and pushing those very people, ideas, and resources, repelling them, in fact, versus attracting them. In fact, it keeps coming back over and over and over again to what I share is the self-cherishing ego, which is the roadblocks that we create that are in the way, which is us. It's you, it's me. We are in our own way to realizing our dreams. And to get back specifically to sustainability and impact, the confusion is people saying, oh, I want to do a good thing with heart, and not paying attention to the economic financial structure that's going to make that good thing with a heart be realized. And that comes right back to the self-cherishing ego. It really is.
It's one big circle. I mean,
It is.
you've obviously been on a journey, Greg. What made you write that book?
What made me write the book is I was speaking to these aged 40, 50, and 60-year-old C-suite executives and entrepreneurs that are very successful. And I was sharing a case study, very much like this conversation we're having right now. And they asked me if I had a case study and how to apply this. I said, well, I don't, but I'll think about it. And then I spoke to a group of students that were in undergraduate and grad school or in their first or second jobs out of grad and undergrad. And I shared the story that I'm sharing with you right now as well. And they asked me if I had a guidebook. And I said, wow, in a matter of 3 weeks, I've had 40, 50, 60-year-old seasoned professionals ask me for case studies. And 3 weeks later, 2.5, 3 weeks later, I have students asking me for a guidebook. Let me sit down. Let me sit down and write it. And I sat down to write about what was the case study, the eureka moment of the aha, this is it. This is what I want to share with everybody. And I'm thinking about these Fortune 500s. I'm thinking about these big names that I've worked with. Amazon, Dell, ExxonMobil, General Motors, Procter & Gamble, all these giant players. And then I was like, that's not it, that's not it. By the way, writing case studies is kind of boring. And I'm like, that's not it, that's not it. And then all of a sudden I was like, what was the moment that changed my whole view? And it was flying into a hurricane, Gary. I was in Silicon Valley, going to do due diligence in North Carolina, software technology leverage buyout. I had to be there by 7 a.m. in the morning. I left the day before. I asked my assistant to not put me on a puddle jumper. I want to just take a jumbo jet all the way. I'll drive 3 hours if I need to. And lo and behold, we land in Pittsburgh. I'm getting on a puddle jumper. I have to. And it's thundering and raining like crazy. And then, of course, we fly into a hurricane. Well, it was downgraded by 5 miles per hour, so we flew into a tropical storm. Missed the runway. Almost didn't make it. I had a moment of deep reflection of what am I going to do with my life? And I write about this in my book, but the short of it is I realized, okay, I need to do something. I need to focus. And then these messengers and gifts started to show up, and I paid attention to what's going around me much more closely than I ever had, and was much more open to the possibility of there being more than just what we see in front of us. And when I've opened my mind, my heart, and listened differently and paid attention, a path opened up. It wasn't easy. It has its own roller coasters, but I followed it and pursued it with the same tenacity as doing a leverage buyout or a financing or a capital raise for my own personal understanding. And that led me to an incredible journey of meeting a Tibetan monk of all things who flew into Silicon Valley of all things. And that was an interesting student-teacher relationship, which I write about as well, and impacted my journey. People can read about that.
I mean, you talk about roadblocks a lot. I mean, how do we overcome these roadblocks? How do we even make ourselves aware that we're creating these roadblocks?
Well, again, it's the same theme, which is the roadblocks are created when we get attached to what we want. Now, let me share an example, a fun one. We're working on a project. We're working on a deal. And we say, wow, I can close this deal. I can make this trade. And I'm going to get a $100,000 fee like that. It's exciting. Then what happens is a competitor trader comes in and takes our transaction away and the $100,000 with it. Now, we're upset, right? But it's not just the $100,000, Gary. With that $100,000 fee that we're about to make on that trade, in our minds, we went and bought a new car, we remodeled our home, we bought some presents for our kids. We went and spent all this money in our minds in a flash. We went into the future and we bought these toys with our money. Now we're back to the present. The trade doesn't happen. The competitor took our business. Not only are we upset, attached to the loss of that $100,000 trade, we're upset about the car we're not going to have, about the presents we can't buy for our kids, about the new remodeling of our home that we haven't touched. We are stacking all those things we didn't even have with the money we didn't even get. That's what happens. That's very human. And then we get upset and we're ready to go to war over a parking space, right? And be right about it. Desperate to be right about it. And not realizing or caring that the person who drove into the spot that were just about to turn into was on the cell phone and looking the other way. I don't care. I was here first, wanting to be right, ready for a fight, and not even understanding, oh, 2 slots down, there's an open space. I can just take that one. Nope, I'm ready for a fight. So the two things are, when we have a challenging experience, we lose the trade, we lose the opportunity, we lose that income, we lose that possibility that didn't even happen. We've already gone and spent that money. We do this, it's human. And then those attachments to outcome, the result, the financial result, the bonus, the promotion, the career opportunity, all goes away in that instant. And we get attached to all those things. It stacks and stacks and stacks, Gary, until it explodes in the form of somebody cuts us off in a parking space or online at Starbucks, and we yell at them disproportionately because we've been carrying not one upset, but 10. And so how we clear the roadblocks is when somebody cuts us off online at the parking space, we lose our deal, we lose the transaction. That's where you take the breath. Reflect. Who am I being, negative or positive? Is what I'm about to say, negative or positive, going to push people away or attract people? That's the reflection. That's the meditation. This is key. This is the benefit. This is the takeaway for anyone who's listening, yourself, myself. This is the key. This is the benefit. That's when you need the practice, the breath, the reflection. Who am I being during this moment? And when you do that every day, because samsara, the suffering, it's every day. The markets are up and down every day. People are upset every day. Politics, environment, capital markets, there's suffering every day. You need to have something for yourself, a personal practice for yourself. And when you do that and you realize, oh, there is a parking space 2 slots down, because you know sooner or later, every problem gets solved. 2 minutes, 2 hours, 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years. Hey, you die, problem solved. And if we know, and this is a key takeaway, Gary, for your friends and the audience. If you know that the problems are going to get solved sooner or later, then they're not really problems. They're just a situation you're facing in the moment. And if they're just a series of situations you're facing in the moment, you mean I don't have to be upset and angry and everybody comes at me because the problem is going to be solved sooner or later? It's just a situation that's going to be solved sooner or later. Then that means that I don't have to be angry and upset and annoyed and frustrated and play the victim card to everyone and every person in my way, in my orbit. That's freedom. And when you do that, Gary, and for your listening audience, when you do that and you realize it's going to be okay, in that moment, you have stepped into your power. You've pulled back and attracted all those people, ideas, and possibilities, and life is better. Life is happier.
Do you find most of your clients are interested in this? Do you talk about these things with your clients?
I do. In fact, I used to separate my business persona from my personal persona, my business style versus my personal philosophy. And I realized that people are human. People want that personal connectivity, that intimacy where they want to feel inspired and motivated and be interested in what you have to say. And when they're interested in what you have to say and share, because you show, not tell, right? We learned this in kindergarten, show, not tell. Then the clients are actually fascinated because everybody wants to be happier. Everybody wants peace in their life, right? No one's on their deathbed saying, I should have spent 2 more hours at the office, right?
No.
No. So
I think we all want what you're talking about. I think sometimes we just don't know how to get there.
read my book. I have a little, let me share a little example with you of how to get there. It's a story. It's a short 2-minute story. It's called the lotus flower, right? The lotus flower grows beautiful, pristine, clean, white, pink, above the dirty water and the dirty mud, unvarnished, untarnished. It sits atop, that beautiful flower sits atop the dirty water and dirty mud. But in fact, it's got a long root going through that dark water and into the dirty mud because it needs the minerals and nutrients from that mud. It needs the hydration from that dark water to become the beautiful flower sitting atop all of that mess. Just like the athlete needs the injuries and the losses, the entrepreneur needs the competition and the struggle to bloom into that beautiful flower, into that incredible entrepreneur, into that talented athlete, that Olympic gold medalist. You need the struggles. You need the samsara, the suffering, to actually get the breakdown to become the breakthrough. You need the struggles because the struggles are the nutrients and the minerals and the water to become that successful entrepreneur, to realize your dreams. There is no other way. There is no other way. So the practice again, this is key because this is a new concept for people to take in. It's an old one, but it's a new one. Who are you being the moment the difficulty arises? Can you take a breath and remember the meditation is, who am I being in this moment? Repelling or attracting? Am I getting closer to or farther from the deal, the client, the business, the life, the happiness, the peace? Or am I pushing that farther away? That's the question you want to ask yourself.
So it's actually, really creating a different way of looking at things.
Yes.
So if we apply that to finance and the world of investing, and we take a family office or institutional investor, are they becoming more conscious under your wing about not what just they invest in, but how they invest and what about wealth itself?
Absolutely. I would say the word is integration. They're integrating. Look, I think capital, when you look at it as creative energy, right? capital is important. When you look at it as energy, you want more energy. So of course you want more capital, but you want the energy to actually apply the lessons, the learnings from the mistakes to become wisdom. And when you do that, you integrate the resources around you with, with the opportunities in front of you. It's about integration, right? And so family offices want to integrate their personal foundational experience, their personal heart, goals, dreams, wishes, with their ability to preserve their wealth. And today, it's not just about wealth preservation, it's about wealth aggregation, accumulation, and applying that wealth into something that's going to bring benefit to themselves, their children, their future generations. They want to integrate their wisdom, their experience, and their capital into more energy.
Do Generation Z think differently about money and wealth?
Absolutely. The younger generation believes that they're just more consciously aware of the environment. So, they don't want plastic bags, they don't want paper bags. They bring their backpack, right? They bring their canvas bag to the Whole Foods or to the grocery market, and at the same time, they want to use AI and they want to use technology to create an idea and make an enormous amount of money wherever they are. And so the dynamic is that the young generation wants to take ideas. They want to know after pandemic, they don't want to work in an office necessarily. They want to be able to work from home or anywhere. They want to use the technology and the AI to work from home or anywhere. They understand the significance of capital and wealth. They do want to be more aware of what's happening around them in the environment. And that's important. And so the younger generation is very focused on being aware, at the same time creating an idea that can generate money, that can create value, work from home, work from anywhere. Whereas the older generation has already made their way in the world. They've already made their path in the world. And now they're looking at their nephews, their nieces, their grandchildren, and learning again how the world has changed. And either they're supporting their children, their grandchildren, the Gen Z generation in their pursuit, or they're holding on to their way of life that they've lived for decades. But the Gen Z generation is very important. They are literally in a new world. I have a 9-year-old daughter, right? She sees everything, not in terms of technology, that she just sees everything as is. What can I do? What's the experience right now as is? She's very present to the moment right in front of her. It's fascinating to watch. And so the Gen Z generation, they're focused right now on how to integrate AI to outline and accelerate how to answer, respond, make money, create wealth. What they need, though, is the boomer, millennial, Gen X generation to provide some of that samsaric suffering experience, to give them the wisdom to take the fascination and the adoption of AI and technology into fruition with their new ideas. It's important that the multi-generations, different demographics integrate. Sure. It's very important.
So where do you see things going in the next 2 to 5 years? And GCH, what will they be doing as part of it?
I think right now, with all the uncertainty, chaos, changes in the world, is the most exciting time to be alive in the world. The next 2 to 5 years, you will see and experience a world that no one has ever seen. The integration of robotics, the intelligence of software in those robots, flying cars. There'll be robots walking down the street. In 6 years, for sure, 5 years from now, you will have robots in the home. cleaning, cooking, helping. The three biggest purchases I believe in the next 2 to 5 years are going to be your phone, your vehicle, and a robot. Right? That's what's going to happen. Because people want more time. And if the pricing of robots in particular, that are humanoid robots in particular, are going to assist with time, because that's really what we want. At the end of the day, we all want more time. We want to be maximizing the time to do what we want to do. And I always share this. The best entrepreneurs, the best executives, the best business folks, and the happiest people in life in general, even if you're not an entrepreneur or a business folk, if you're a teacher in construction, academic, research, sports athlete, entertainer, the people who have a skill and are really good at it and work on that skill and apply that skill as part of their income producing opportunity is what you should focus on. And the other thing you should focus on as an entrepreneur, as a builder, as a person, is what you love to do. Those two things, what you're good at and what you love to do, are the two things you must focus on to create a better life for yourself. Everything else is a distraction, Gary. Everything else.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Well, I've got to say, it's been a really good call.
Thank you.
And unusual compared to what most calls are. If people want to get hold of you, want to get hold of GCH, or they want to actually buy your book, where can they find you?
So Samsara and Its Impact on the Entrepreneur's Dreams can be purchased anywhere on Amazon. So just type that in. And they can reach me on LinkedIn at Gregory Mark Hill in New York on LinkedIn. And look forward to speaking and connecting with your audience. I'll leave you with this. If you're a fast reader, you can read it. It's 7 chapters. You can read 1 chapter a day. You can read it in a week. If you're a slower reader, you may read 1 chapter a week and then 7 weeks. But 7 days or 7 weeks, it'll impact positively and inspire you, I promise. And if not, let's talk.
I will buy it. I will, next time we talk, we'll be able
Yes.
to talk about what I've read. But yeah, I just want to thank you for being on the show. It's been
Thank
really
you.
inspirational. I've loved talking to you. It's good to talk to people about different things and learn more about different views in life. I'll be taking 3 breaths for a lot of the time going forward. So just to wrap it up, I just want to say that I'm Gary Wayne from A1 Solutions. You can find me on LinkedIn or on my website, which is www.a1solutionsinternational.com. Greg, I want to thank you again for being on the show. It's really been quite inspirational. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Have a great day.